Hey everybody, it's your buddy Beard Grizzly. Yeah, we just got done talking about Dredgen Yor and all, but I seem to have upset some people. Before you ask, it wasn't the Hot Topic joke, though I was informed that's still very much a thing. I mean, I do upset people more often than I care to admit because I'm a little crazier than the average warlock. But some of you were incredibly passionate about statements I made in my last video on Yor himself, particularly about that troublesome business of what type of guardian he was managed at the time? Anyway, I definitely understand the split in the community of what Yor is, but there is something to understand, at least in my estimation, about what he really is. Oh, heck with it, let's just jump in. If you're not familiar with the controversy, then I'll do my best to describe what's going on. It all starts with the Thorn, Last Word, and Rezyl Azzir cards being released at odd times. These cards do not line up with themselves in terms of release, and this, of course, leads to a lot of questions about how they actually line up, and where all the pieces fall into place. Of course, this is the tip of the iceberg because we still have items with Yor's name on them, other elements that talk about him throughout the lore world, and that troubling matter of assumption and stereotyping, along with causality. It all starts with that pesky matter of Thorn, and that hunters are mainly seen as the ones wielding hand cannons. I mean, obviously a Titan wouldn't use a pea shooter, they'd be using a big manly burly auto rifle or something. Do I just call this the Rambo effect? I'm gonna call it the Rambo effect. Trademark Beard Grizzly. Anyway, from the stories of what we have in the Grimoire cards, we know this is half true. Rezyl Azzir used an auto rifle called Inferno before he resorted to using his hand cannon named Rose. The theories behind Rose are pretty expanded upon, with a very popular theory being that the first curse, the supposed sister gun of the Last Word, was originally Rose. The name may have changed, or something else happened along the way, but it's a popular theory nonetheless. This is just to exemplify that Dredgen Yor carries a lot of mysteries along with him, more than just what his original name may have been, where my theory, and at least the theory of Mylan Games and others, may have been that it was Rezyl Azzir, the once great Titan turned shadow and dark supporter. By the way, that's what made people upset. Oh, the humanity. Okay, serious mode activated for a little while here. What class was Rezyl Azzir? Well, we know that already from the first card with his namesake, Rezyl Azzir, before these walls. Within the first few sentences, we're told that in this time his kind would be called Titan. Well, this gives us a very clear depiction of what Dredgen Yor is then, so we can all go home! Okay, I'm kidding. So much for serious mode. Guess I'm a bit too silly for my own good right now. Speaking of, so is a hunter by the name of Pahanin. Pahanin is mostly renowned for a few things, namely his hand in crafting, or at least befriending, an HMG called Super Good Advice, his love for all things cephalopod, aka squids, and being shot and killed by Dredgen Yor. Also something about a vault of breakable reality or some-ish, might have been made of glass. Anyway, Dredgen Yor was a contender in the Crucible, and Guardians were always looking to test themselves within Shaxx arenas. It's argued when the Crucible, as it is, was founded, even though that kind of almost warrants its own video and topic alone, but I do pick up from this flavor text from Dredgen Yor's cloak that he was an avid competitor in the Crucible. Before he murdered Pahanin, Dredgen Yor ruled the Crucible, the notorious Thorn at his side. Cloak of Dredgen Yor. It was only after this match that Thorn had become too powerful, since Yor's fascination with the Crucible was probably because he hated us. It was, after all, a step we needed when creating our own Thorns in both Year 1 or otherwise, letting the gun train on Guardians as much as our enemies that we fight. Still, there's that troubling instance of this being the cloak of Dredgen Yor, and, well, cloaks are kind of hunter items, right? Then again, so does the artifact known as Dredgen Yor's Rose, the flavor text reading, "In his strong hand the man held a rose, and his aura burned bright." Well, the rose is a bit easier to explain away. It's a corrupted green rose with metal thorns, similar to that of what we have with Thorn on the tips of its barrels. It's more of a symbol and a trophy than much else, not the original rose, since we know that Rezyl used that to shoot things. The cloak, on the other hand, the logo on the back seems to be a bit different from the traditional Hunter logo. Just to compare them, this is what they both look like. Now, as I'm very good at, let me show you some awful Photoshop. Here's a Titan logo. Here's a Titan logo with the 6 points of the Hunter stretched over top of each wall of the hexagon. This is Dredgen Yor's logo spread out over the Titan logo all the same. Just funny how it fits a bit better. The rose is also broken up into 6 sections, which I find funny. It's just a lot of Titan symbolism. Whether it's meant to be there or not, however, is up for debate. Still, if you're not the kind for visuals and you're more into the idea of logic maps, then let's go down this yellow brick road. Or maybe green cabbage colored road. I don't know. First off, Yor turns to the dark side. This is outlined in the first Thorn card. Same meat, same bone, but so very different. We read this over last time, but that line's the most important one when dealing with Yor being the same guy as someone else. But it's probably Rezyl. Next, he becomes renowned enough in the Crucible to be an absolute terror on the field. Meanwhile, he is referred to as Dredgen Yor, or maybe just Yor, all the while causing complete havoc with his hand cannon called Thorn. One day, however, Thorn gets too powerful and sucks the light right out of Pahanin. This is possibly Thorn's first kill, and thus Squid people lose their major voice amongst humanity. All the while, if this was Rezyl that had shot and killed Pahanin, people would have started to talk about it. The Crucible is an almost televised event, as we've seen with several Arena Grimoire cards, and it's recorded for study. Now, perhaps this was done for the sake of what happened to Pahanin, to ensure another Yor doesn't happen. Because, that stops the Vanguard from letting it go on entirely. Yep, because there isn't a group of Guardians running around that's acting just like Yor, shooting off thorns in matches. Not at all. I hope the sarcasm was thick enough. In either event, if it was Rezyl that had killed Pahanin in the Crucible, others may have seen it happen in the arena. Pahanin's ghost may also have figured out who had done it, since, as we see with Jeren's ghost, Pahanin's ghost may not have been able to revive him at all, as his light was completely drained by Thorn. But Jeren's ghost was untouched and freely let go by Yor's choice. Basically, when Yor kills something with Thorn, it doesn't kill the ghost at the same time. That seems like it has to be a more conscious decision, like we've seen in the past with the Iron Lords killing fellow ghosts as well. So why is this significant? Well, a disguise is the name of the game when it comes to Rezyl taking on his new persona. He dons a cloak, distorts the Titan logo to match the Hunters, but still with a twist thanks to that point at the top, and proceeds to keep himself under this guise the whole time. Meanwhile, as Yor states many times throughout most of the Thorn cards, the only power he's really concerned with at this point is Thorn. Okay, the too long got confused or zoned out version is Rezyl needed to disguise himself by taking on this new persona of Dredgen Yor. He could no longer appear as he once did. This way, anything that happened in Yor's name was faced with little to no consequence to the name of Rezyl. Think of Batman, except he's a murderous psychopath. Maybe I should have just said Joker. With why Rezyl needed to change his looks out of the way, the question that still exists is why are the items we have marked as being for Yor belonging to Hunters? Well, Hunters keep trophies. Hunters also like to spin tales and yarns, and being that a Hunter, even a rogue one by the name of Shin Malfure, is credited with the kill of Dredgen Yor, well, just like other Guardian groups and other momentous kills throughout the city's history, they could just remain that for the Hunters that choose to remember that one of their greats had killed Dredgen Yor. I feel like I could almost stop here, but let's actually get to the crux of the issue. Dredgen Yor has cast off his light. He may still have his ghost with him, but he has claimed to simply say that he trusts in Steel or his Rose, while later also stating to Jeren Ward's ghost that he no longer just trusts in Steel. Not for some time. My Steel is only an extension. My faith is in the shadow. For me, and the way I've now read over a lot of the Thorn and Last Word dialogue, Dredgen Yor has simply let go of the past that was the light. For him, there is no semblance of what a class is anymore, but instead just the pure steel and reason of his jagged purpose. You know what? That sounded wrong. Thorn, okay? He trusts in Thorn and the Shadow. This is seemingly true of his followers, the Shadows of Yore. Within the few cards we've seen of them so far, we know that they are using Thorn as well, but this time they seem to have contained what Yore could not, or at least so they say. Time will tell, ultimately. Hopefully. Bungie, don't you dare give up on this story. I swear to Traveler, I will punch a pillow with Tess Ever's face on it. And I know you love her, so you might be offended by that. Bah! Anyway, to summate, the class of Dredgen Yor is about as important as what I had for dinner last night. It was a steak sandwich, by the way, in case you were wondering. Really, Yor has pushed off the ideas of the light. Now it's about survival. It's about keeping himself hidden from the overall forces of the light than it is about how many people he could crunk with a fist of havoc that he no longer has the will to use. Thorn is now the power and the element that he cares for. I've also brought it up before, but this common trope that Bungie seems to leave in the Grimoire from common phrases that pop up from place to place that seem to tie back to other cards or personages from within, well, here's a few examples just to explain what I mean. From the end of the Triumphant Fall card, it was only later and far too late that the first whispers came and the bones revealed their true, jagged purpose. From the first Thorn card, in his first moments as a new being, he looked down at his rose and realized for the first time that it had no petals, only the jagged purpose of angry thorns. Plus, Rezyl called his hand cannon Rose. And to change gears entirely, here's one on the Stranger that I've always liked. From Ghost Fragment, the Stranger. I stand here now and now and now many times, this view, this ground. And from Rasputin 4. You stand here now and now and now many times, and here I am all a wonder how you manage it. Either way, I wanted to expand on this idea a bit more and hopefully help shed some light on why I feel Rezyl Azzir is in fact Dredgen Yor. A hunter he isn't, because the light doesn't matter to a servant of the dark. As a reminder, I wasn't the one that came up with this theory, and this is definitely one that's been postulated by many in the community. If you guys are curious, you can actually check out Myelin Games' videos on the same topic. He's been pretty conclusive on this topic, and I think he's got it down pretty well. But hey, I'm always up for hearing what you guys have to tell me about why you think Rezyl isn't Dredgen Yor. I'm going to be frank, however, if you're just going to pass the idea off as it was lazy and they had nothing to do with each other, then I'm just going to wonder how much salt you put on your steak sandwiches. Anyway, you know what to press to tell me what you thought of this content, along with the subscribe button for more from me. Next time, I'd brace for some pretty heavy spin foil. I'll see you next Space Time, Guardians. Thanks for hearing me out. Take care, and I'll see you soon.